Welcome back, coaches, and thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Rising Coaches Podcast. Alan Major and Doug Caputo here today. We're graced and happy to be able to have the opportunity. We're talking with someone who knows a lot about the game, has made some tremendous stops, and been a part of some tremendous programs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the longtime Division I assistant, Coach Danny Peters. Coach Peters, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, DC. I appreciate you having me. Mage, good to see you again.
Likewise, brother. Been a minute.
Yep.
A minute, man. Great to see you, man. Absolutely.
We always say this, coaching world is so much smaller than it really is. And I know me and you hopped on a call before we were doing this, and it's funny to be able to see all the different steps, like me and you knowing mutual people, obviously you and Mage going way back to Ohio State, but then noticing that your father coached at Youngstown State. I know you have a tremendous career and tremendous background with that, which we'll get into here in a second. But kind of leading into that, you going back to your roots, right? Ultimately being raised in a household of coaching household around basketball more than enough. For people who don't know, your father, Dan Peters, was a longtime head coach at numerous different places and a legend in the game as well. But just kind of go back to being a kid growing up in the coaching household. How did that influence the game for you, how you see the game, and how you learn to ultimately be a leader yourself?
Be a leader. I don't want to speak on that part, but I'll talk about just like the game. And I think Mage, Mage can piggyback on this because, our unique experience. He saw me at 18, 17 years old. He was with me till I was 24, and he had a front row seat to see the unique relationship between me and my father. Very unique at times, but I'll let him do that part. But I will tell you, I had a head start. I think that's the best way to play it. Was there anything like life altering or changing in that house that was said that was different? Probably not. No different than anybody else. It just was delivered at a younger age, and it gave me an opportunity to learn some basketball strategic, technical things probably earlier than anyone else. And, you start stacking that layering where maybe somebody learns that in high school or in college. I kind of got that when I was, 7 to 9, 10 years old, 6, somewhere around there. And the reason that happens is it wasn't like, hey, I walked in the room with my clipboard and said, hey, Dad, teach me about help side defense or anything like that. It wasn't like that. It was, when you're a coach's son and you're in this business, and I'm sure there's some on this Zoom or listening to this podcast, and this will resonate with them. You have a chance to have access to rooms that other people don't, and you only have limited time with your family. So in order for my father to be a father, an effective one, and be present, we had to mesh the two worlds together, and they're a great two worlds to be together. I mean, they're awesome. Some of the experiences I had, I remember being in 6th grade, and we were living in Youngstown, and I played in this little Catholic basketball league. There wasn't a huge basketball community in that area at the time. So I played in this winter league, and we made it to the championship. And Mage, I'll put it like this. We were undefeated for 2 years. So my game. You can then relate to know how good that group was, right? So, And so I played in this league, and we won the championship on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever. And Coach Trussell was the head coach of the football team, the AD at the time. He allowed me to fly in the private plane in 6th grade to go to the conference championship for the Mid-Con championship in Kansas City, where they played Valpo and Bryce Drew. And I remember feeling like I was Braun on that private plane, like just flying out there. Like, you don't get those experiences.
Yeah.
At different ages, or if you're not in those circles. And, I listened to some of these other coaches that have kind of had similar experiences, talk through it. Ryan Odom has a great stories. And, I really enjoy listening to Lane Kiffin. We have a lot of different things that we kind of connect on. He had a wonderful article on the article about how he kind of learned football. And, it resonated with me so much that I brought it up. I'm going to bring it up here, but his dad was a defensive specialist. And, that was kind of like my dad's thing a little bit with Huggins and their background, this pressure defense and all this. My dad also was very locked in on 5-out motion. At Mage, you probably heard about that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was just like, God, all right, man.
Oh yeah.
Right.
A lot of conversations. Yeah.
He numbers cuts, and it was so. I mean, this was extensive, and I'll talk about his, what he kind of taught me later. Some of the things I really took from him. But when he would talk about defense, my mind would always go to like, all right, how am I beating this? And then he'd talk about offense, and my mind would always go to, all right, how am I beating this? And you know what? When you're young and you're learning those skills, eventually what happens is you kind of compound days before anybody else does.
That's true.
That was by the time I got to Mage and we were at Ohio State, I was a freshman or whatever. I was, manager, walk-on, scholarship player, whatever my story became. I probably had been around college a lot longer than I probably needed to ever be. Especially in that role. So that was a little long-winded, but that's kind of how that access got granted. And, I'm really appreciative of him. One, he's my hero, and, I love him,
Mm-hmm.
human, but a brilliant coach and very, very good with people. And then I am just very thankful for his access to put me in rooms with, he had an NBA head coach on his staff at Youngstown. Kenny Natt was there. There were other, Gary Gresh was on that staff. He's a Division III head coach in Wisconsin. He played for Dick Bennett. He was on that Wisconsin Green Bay team that beat Jason Kidd and Cal in the NCAA tournament. Dude was played with Tony, brilliant. And then, you go to Cincinnati, that speaks for itself. Mick Cronin's there, Andy Kennedy's there, Jared Calhoun's there, Rod Baker's there, who's with the Suns now, but was a G League head coach. Great staff. If I miss anybody, I apologize. And then Hugs, who's in the Hall of Fame. Then we go to Ohio State, and that was loaded. That was a factory at one point in time. And it was loaded. And then I made my transition, and then it just continued. I go to Arizona, that got loaded. And, I bounced around different places. And, man, I've been very fortunate to be in different rooms. And I'm on the recruiting trail at the Solon Cage Classic in '96. We're going to dinner, and I'm sitting down. The salt pepper shakers are moving around, and I'm like, and the puzzle starts forming in your mind. So that's really how it kind of got here, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. Now, we had Fran McCaffrey's son, Connor, who's at Butler. We had him on recently, and it's funny, most coaches' sons, they probably learn more about managing people and the art of coaching itself they get their fair share of X's and O's. But if you really weighed it out over the course of time, they probably get more just about the profession and managing people and how to handle players and just ways to communicate. Like you probably, if there's a scale, it's probably 75% that, or maybe 70% that, 30% X's and O's. Because you might get some X's and O's over the dinner table, but you're probably getting a lot more conversations about just how the day go. Well, I dealt with this, and this is how I handled it. So that's probably 70% of it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and this is, somebody told me this long ago, a sports psychologist. He said, when you're a coach's son or a coach's kid, you typically model the behaviors of the people around your parent, that's the coach, that they give the most attention to, because you want the attention. You're a kid, that seems pretty logical to me.
Right.
So
interesting.
In my observance of that, I don't mean to get all philosophical on you guys here, but observance of that, I recognized not just the behaviors that he gave attention to, but I recognized his strategies for managing those different types of behaviors and those different types of people. And when you say managing them, his biggest thing was, how do I get this dude to run through a wall for himself? Not me, but for himself. And then once he can do it for him, and how do you treat people? And Mage, I mean, I'm not even where close to the man that he is. I mean,
no, he's a star, man.
Yeah. But I think, to your point of observation, and I think we all need models. Mage and I talked about that on the phone last night before we got started. We all need models, man. Daniel Coyle, the author, talks about it all the time.
Talent code, yeah.
How models thrive. I just gave you a list of models. Like I knew the answers, man. I had models that did it, every way.
Right.
That were great coaches, how to advance, how to coach, how to manage people, how to run a program. I have every model checked, every one of them. If you don't have those, man, you're just out there grasping for straws, or you're modeling,
emulating. Yeah.
You're emulating somebody who wasn't effective.
Mm-hmm.
It just, because that's the only thing It's the only thing And
well said.
Yeah.
You learn to be a coach at a young age. I mean, there's like I could say now, my dad was never like a Division I head coach, such as a YSU or anything like that. He was just a freshman head coach, but had multiple seasons where a couple undefeated seasons and like good tenure. And to your point, like just growing up, being around, exactly seeing how they work with people, and then just kind of being in the practices, like whether you're just actually involved with the practices, but most of the time you're just the little kid running around chasing a ball around on the side, but you just like watching practices. It just grows on you so much, and you really do. You don't even notice it, but like to your point, just being involved in it and like kind of having a foot in the door, watching stuff and getting opportunities that other kids don't, you learn a lot more. And I mean, you've seen those sides of the game that many kids haven't seen before people even got the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the thing I'd say to you, DC. It's like, hey, you said, hey, my dad was just a freshman coach. I'm telling you, some of the best coaches I've ever been around, that level and where they've been. It doesn't even matter. What's required of you to be successful in one space, and I'm not going to label any of them, does not mean that those skills are going to be transferable to another space or another level. These guys can get, because TV's involved in different stuff, like they're really good coaches that you would never even hear of. And I'll give you an example. I was listening. I'm studying right now. I'm on this sabbatical. I'm in year 0, like kind of getting my mind together on different stuff. And there's that old camp I used to have in Salt Lake City. Mage, help me here. Snow Valley.
Snow Valley, yeah.
Mage, what was the honor at Snow Valley? The best coaches got to coach what age group?
It was like the young kids. Yeah.
The young kids. All the new coaches that were green, they had to coach the older guys. Coaching young and developing them, you're talking about skill development, mindset development, how to play the game, teamwork, cohesion. Hey, who are you guarding? Like that is, that's different than
fun.
Oh yeah, that's different than
fun. Fun and joy.
Buy in, stand in the corner. It's a great spot to stand into. I know you're hurting your ego, but I know you want to stand there. Like this is the truth, man. It's the truth. And you learn a lot about how to get the best out of people, how and not for your own sake, but for them, because we're all on this journey. Like I'm not here to use you. I'm just a guide on your journey. I have a little bit more information, but my relationship to sport and basketball and your relationship to sport and basketball, we're just doing it together. We just have different roles in it. One day you're the ops guy, the next day you're the head coach, then you're the assistant, then you're the player. Sometimes you stand in the corner. Sometimes you have the ball at the top of the key. Like we can all get caught up in trying to end up in one role that we want and forget the other ones, or we get caught up in just this very small fracture of what happens in the whole evolution of a season. Man, there's 3 seconds left on the clock. I've got the ball in my hands. Well, what about the other seconds that were the whole entire year? And
right. That's the one thing is at the end of a game, everybody goes, oh, this guy missed a game-winning shot. And I feel like that's one thing that everybody looks at that final player, those final 10, 15 seconds. Like, exactly your point. What happened in those first three and a half quarters?
The game might have swung in the 4 minutes after halftime.
Exactly. We put a bad lineup in. Yeah.
I mean, you went from up 8 to down 7. And it just swung, and now you're playing uphill all the way till that last 3 seconds for whatever reason. So
we rarely, and I don't want to say rarely, and I don't even want to associate anybody, but how much do we really focus on the 80-20 principle of like things that happen 20% or more, you should spend 80% of your time on? Like,
no doubt.
I'm not out here shooting half court shots every day or working on a jump ball play for 25 minutes of practice,
Yeah, no, that was Pete
One
Carrill.
time in college.
Be great at what you have to do a lot.
Yeah.
That was Pete Carrill. I mean,
Yep.
unbelievable book, Doug. The Smart Take from the Strong.
Right.
Pete Carrill.
It's a good one.
He looks like Yoda. I know you're going to Google him, Dougie, but he looks like Yoda. You put him together on the screen. Literally hair and everything. He looks like Yoda, but brilliant old coach at Princeton, but wrote a great book called The Smart Take from the Strong. But one of these he says in that book is be great at what you have to do a lot. If you it's really about not overthinking coaching is really the crux of the book. But anyway,
it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. No, but Coach, I know you mentioned too. Well, sorry, you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna. I was gonna say, just like with the experiences that you've had. I mean, like as we said, you've had a tremendous background. You've played and been a part of Ohio State with Coach Mata, and then you go on to Arizona, Ball State, Xavier, most recently Georgia State. But with all your positions, one of them kind of really pointed out to me the most, and one of them was at Ball State. So those were essentially, at least in the beginning, kind of more rebuild years, and that included like ultimately going from a rebuild to then having back-to-back 20-win seasons.
Yeah.
So just talk about the structure of rebuilding a program, going into somewhere, that, hey, we got to take this over and then take it from ground zero and get it to where you ultimately have it. Like I said, back-to-back 20 wins.
Yeah. I give credit to Coach Whitford, who's now at Rhode Island as an assistant with Archie Miller.
Great coach.
Yep.
Yeah.
And both James, very defensive-minded and brilliant in that space. He stuck his toes in the ground and like, man, I'm not budging on this. And this was his one concept. I'm going to develop young kids. I'm not going to be a quick fix. And, that first year I was not there. They won 5 games. I came in the next year and he had freshmen coming in who he gave a chance to play, and we won 7 games. And we had a couple kids sitting out. And then his third year, my second year, that's when we kind of took off. And one, confidence came in. That was important. But I'll give you this, DC, that is, we didn't have enough guys to practice the first year. Like I had to practice at times, we couldn't even have walk-ons. So like you hear that part, like, and I always, when I'm in a room, and I got this from Sean Miller, and I didn't understand it at first until I got a little older. He's like, we can't practice with him. Like, we can't practice. What's it matter? And I was like, man, what is this guy talking about? Like, it's not that he was wrong. He didn't explain it to me, and I didn't get it. Right. And we don't really understand till we get the why. So then I started putting it together. I'm like, well, okay, that makes sense. Well, you got to have 15 dudes. So you can have a scout team, and then you can play red versus blue or whatever and move guys. We couldn't even do that. So how are you going to get better if you can't practice for 90 times? Right. Like, Archie, his couple years of dating there, man, they were getting hurt and banged up, and he'd call, or I'd hear stories about him, and he'd be like, man, we can't even practice 5-on-5. We're playing 3-on-3. And I'm just going like, how are you making this work? Like, you guys are going to Elite 8. You must have some dudes. Like, but that was one of the, James being stubborn in a positive way. And then that we're going to develop these young guys. There's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to be culture driven, and we're going to develop them because that's what his passion was, and that's how he wanted to do it. It worked, and we got good players in there, and we really attacked our net. We didn't try to be national. We didn't try to, have this agent that we weren't going to be good at that. We didn't have that kind of platform to do it. And when people were passing up too many good other options to come to us, and so we just say, hey, we're going to be strong in the areas that we're in, and that was Indiana and the breadbasket surrounding states around there. And we really, really attack that. And you look up, and one of the biggest signs at Ball State, if you're recruiting there, is their success. A lot like Ohio State, you have to recruit this. When the state of Ohio is good, Ohio State's really, really good.
Amen.
It's always been that way.
No doubt.
If you recruit Indiana All-Stars at Ball State, you're going to be pretty good. And we had about 7 or 8 on the team, and it worked itself out.
Yeah. No, great stuff, man.
Yeah. We actually had 2 guys and I was probably the loudest voice on this. And hopefully this is not clipped up and becomes like the soundbite for the show. But the kid that went to Belmont that ended up playing for the Cavs, like the
Dylan.
Yep, Windler. Dylan Windler. And you're going to hate this one, Desmond Bain.
Oh, my God.
Couldn't sign off on Desmond Bain, unfortunately. really talented, but I went down there and I just didn't have enough information multiple times because they played zone. It was a small school, and he wasn't, competition wasn't great. And so like, you're like, I just don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't fair at that time. And I think everybody felt that way, and now you look up, it's like, damn, there are 2 pros that wanted to come or were close. And you're like, damn, you missed on both, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but that for people that follow us and listen to the show, it's really good for young coaches to hear the evolution of how to build a program, because we have assistant coaches on here as well, different levels, but also people on the support side, whether it be ops or VCs or player development or whatever, grad managers, like they need to know in those roles how pivotal they are in building something like what you just said. It's not just the coaching staff, like everybody kind of having that all hands on deck mentality as you're trying to build something. That's a really big deal. So,
to your deal, and everybody has their philosophy, or I believe people have their philosophies. This new thing, and it's been going on for so long, is that philosophy book, and it just keeps growing and growing. You hear about Belichick, and he just got that job with Carolina. He had 400-page Bible. It's like, all right, like he's writing stuff down, and I'll tell you, a 30, 60, 90-day plan is very important. I think it's critical as you go through this, and let's just kind of like know who you are, know what your niche is, and then, start with the end in mind. If you start with those 2 things and who you can get, and then work your way backwards with your culture. And you first get there, you're getting boots on the ground. I know there's a lot of fundraising. There's a lot of meeting people. I've been a part of, I want to say 3 or 4 different places that have done this. So I've watched it from different angles of how it goes on. And if you add a 5th, I'd say in high school, I was part of that too. I came in with a new head coach. So I've seen it at a number of different places and how it goes on, what works, what doesn't. And you got to get your infrastructure right. You have to know what those things are. Like, you want to talk about player development? Okay. Who's shooting with the players? Who's working them out? Who's doing this? Like, you think that you're just like, who's getting the balls out? Who's coming back at night? Who's opening the gym? If you just think like, hey, well, we're going to have a culture of player development and the guys do it on their own, it's like, they probably don't know what they're doing. You gotta, who's recruiting, and I'll just kind of stick in that area. Who's recruiting the managers? What equipment do you have? Who's in charge of setting it up? Hey, are they running a shooting program? What are the drills they doing? Are they doing actual development? 2 very different things. 2 very, 100%. Very different things. What is your philosophy on both? Okay. Are they playing in the summer? So you're just talking about that summer 10 weeks. When you get there, you have to take inventory of all those things. Then you have to kind of like tear the walls down and put your own branding up and get your own idea, make it look different, because if you're bringing guys back and there's retention, which you hope, and maybe if you take over a program that wasn't as successful, you kind of got to get that mind out of them. Like, you got to get that visual out. It has to look different.
Yeah, no, they need a full rinse.
Right.
Yeah, you can't be doing the same thing.
Yeah, it can't.
And they can't think the same. Their minds have to change.
The words can't be the same. The wall, the pictures, you got to take stuff down. I mean, you got to flip the room. Locker room's now over here. You're over here, and just no doubt. Different look. And you got to do that. Right now as we've evolved and things are different. But this is free agency in Division I at this point. So those guys get in there. And you got 10 new guys, you got a roster of 15. How are you doing that before they get there June 1? Because in my mind, June 1 is practice 1.
100%.
June 1 is practice. I'm building up all summer to be able to scrimmage at the end.
Yep, you got 10 weeks.
Yeah, I have to send my message that first month, 2 weeks that I'm there. These are the things that are important to me, and this is how I'm doing it. And it's one thing to say the words; it's another thing to actually do it. You have to emphasize it.
And collectively as a staff.
Yes.
Like that collective, like everybody's doing it. It's not just the head coach in front of the team, but then, that's 10% of the team time as he's standing in front of everybody. That other 90%, it's got to be everybody else.
So again, back to Mage's point about mentors. You get there, this is your first job. You're the only one that knows. So who's your first follower? Like, who's actually stepping out there? Year 2, now you have retention. Your staff knows what you want. You're spending less time on developing your staff or teaching them what you want, and more time on like, hey, remember when we did this? Okay, go. Then it speeds up, and that just takes time, man. But you got to be able to launch on June 1 and let that rocket go off, and just kind of make sure as people fall off, you're like, come on, I got you, come back. And if you don't have that ready to go, where you're going like, all right, so what are we going to do for player development? You should already had that figured out before you got there. It was just, hey, just get the manpower in there of the right people who align, and then press send. That was it.
No doubt, man. No question.
And I wanted to say too, when you said before, development to training is different. I like that, because that's one thing it took me a little bit to start to understand. Like when you're working with kids, whether it's high school, college, whatever level it is, like when you're working with people and you're going through these basic drills over the summer, but then if you go in and actually see the drills people are going through, like your guys essentially, they could be doing these drills, and then I learned this last year, to be exact. Somebody came in and was doing some step back fadeaways. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I work on that all summer. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but you haven't even mastered a basic jump stop, go through somebody, draw. You know what I mean? Like you're doing all these fadeaways and all this extracurricular stuff that we don't need any of this. And then it took the whole year to try and pull that out of, and then get rid of that. But I worked on it all summer. It's like, I don't care what you worked on all summer, because it obviously isn't working. It's not what we need. So that to your point of like finding someone who runs a development program properly and to what you want for your offense and your team is crucial.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point, and Mage, I know I got a guy in my mind that was my teammate that you can think of. He struggled with this a little bit, but you got to, I think this is the biggest thing, DC. You got to be very, like, playing open gym and playing one-on-one is a game. Like, you think about children's development. We always talk about, as a child, playing games. That's how they learn. That's how they grow, right?
Yeah.
Then, we use it through sport. And then, so at what age does sport then become, hey, this is no longer playing games. This is strategy in unity, competing against a referee, an opponent, fatigue, yourself, and the clock. When does that transition? So then you watch guys, and I'll get into like building and layering here in a second, some teaching stuff, but you watch guys work out and you fail them because they want to work on the things that are fun. Well, that's playing games. And I'm not here to take away from that. Like, we should all have fun, but this is winning. Like, this isn't Little League baseball where everybody gets involved and we go to ice cream afterwards. Like, we let the ice cream kids go a long time ago.
Yeah, no doubt.
We're now at the point where, like, we're sitting around the room and, like, we're mad. It matters. It matters. There's pressure. It matters. We signed up. There's alignment to do something. So you got to cut that stuff out. And I tell you, like, a lot of it is, and I hear coaches say all the time, man, he loves to play. Okay, play what? Like, we're not playing. Like, that's why I'm not so loving of open gym. I like it. And if there's professionals in there, which we were fortunate to have in Columbus at Ohio State, I mean, there's pros that can play.
A lot of them.
Whole different deal. There's a shot clock, and we set that up. We did that. Like, we didn't play. We scrimmaged. Like, that's way different. That's way different. And so then you get in these skill things that you're talking about, and it's like, all right, well, I'm going 1-on-0 because I got to learn and I have to upgrade my pace. Then I'm going to go 1 versus dummy defense, and then it's 1-on-1 live. Man, kids skip all over that. They're like, oh, just give me that cone. And then, you get out there and you're in the Big Ten and that hand gets on you. Oh, boy, you better lift it, man. All that stuff.
Yeah, the cone. Yeah, the cone.
It doesn't work anymore.
The cone can't hand check you. Yeah.
Nope.
Right.
You cut through the lane and everybody chucks you. I mean, you're playing half court basketball, and that's like, that really, I learned a lot as I transitioned as a coach, because I was stationed in the Midwest as a kid and as a player, and you're in the Big Ten, and man, there were some really good teams, and the game was different, by the way, but it was very half court, and we had Greg, and that was probably, I don't want to speak ill of anyone, that was probably the last college dominant center, maybe. There's been a Kofi Cockburn. There's been a couple guys that have been. Zach Edey.
Yeah. Most recently.
Zach Edey. Yeah.
My fault. Most recently, but I mean, there's been fits and starts of guys. It's not like every year you can say, here's a guy, but
right.
But no, it definitely, the style was it was much different for sure.
And then I went out west to the Pac-12. I mean, that thing was flying up and down the floor. Like it was zoom, 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 zoom. And
right.
It was,
right.
You know which one translated to the NBA? The one that we played, the Pac-12. It wasn't the Big Ten. But I know this, whatever I worked on in college, if I didn't have somebody guarding me and putting their hands on me, it was not going to work.
No question.
And
that first time
that goes back to your development part of like, are you failing people or how is this working? And,
yeah. And you got to partner with players. I think it's like, you've got to, just saying, hey, go work on this and I'll catch you later. Like, no, you've got to be a part of the process, walking in front of them by providing direction, walking alongside of them by just being in the gym with them and being, sweating with them literally, and then walking behind them from the standpoint of like, oh no, we got 5 more minutes, let's go, so it's partnering with them in a 360-degree fashion, in front, alongside, and then behind. And then once they feel that and they feel that you're in it with them, like, man, that's when, I hate to say that phrase, it's overused, but when the magic happens. But that to me is when they see some success on things you've worked on, and now they come back, and now that the cycle can really start to feed on itself, because and they know you're there with them. They know you're being unconditional. You're not iffy. You're not, showing up late. You're not missing days. It's like you're there. And it's like every day you're there and you do what you say you're going to do, and they can count on you. And so it's like all of that. So sorry, Dougie.
No, you don't got to apologize.
Got on a roll there. Yeah.
So Coach Peters, there's one thing I do want to make sure we touch on, and I guess we'll kind of divert to that. But just right now, as we mentioned, I know you have had some tremendous stops, and at the current moment, I know you're in between roles. But the reason I bring this up is solely because this is going to be a situation, or a lot of people are going to be in similar situations at one point or another. They may be, looking for their next spot. What has this pause taught you, and really anything that you have learned during this while still kind of on that search for that next position?
Yeah.
Knowing full well that your answer might be totally different in 9 months.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Completely. So I think, first off, I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do this. This is a blessing. And I think one of the things that has gone on is, I think the original, maybe, I want to be courteous by saying this and just polite, but I think the original reason why I signed up to or wanted to get into this, I don't know if those opportunities are expressed much in the space that I was in the whole landscape, not just one organization, but the whole landscape of the profession. Division I has changed so much. And Mage, not to date you, but I think when you were coming up, Mage, that was when I first got my glimpse and was like, oh, I love it, and it changed a lot, man. It changed a lot. And, how much are you really getting in the gym with guys? My thing is, I talked about this. I'm sharing my journey and my relationship with sport with so many people along as I guide them. And then, I learn from them too. I'm just not giving, and, I get some back too now.
Yeah. And that's the partnership part.
Yep.
Because they get you better. They make you better as well. Yeah, for sure.
You know what? There's a lot of, I get a lot of peace and joy and self-satisfaction out of helping somebody with my experiences that I've had and been fortunate to have achieve their goals. That means the world to me. Damn, I maybe didn't get to do it myself, but I can give, and they can take it. And, I would say, back to your question about what has this taught me, or what have I learned? I at right now where I am, I would probably say I've shifted a little bit out of that space. I'm not sure if it's for me right now. Not saying it won't come back or I won't move back there. But I think I go back to this passion versus obsession. I think if you're not careful, man, you start obsessing and coveting something, elevation, an opportunity, or if your window shrinks and you're trying to stranglehold onto something because you're man, I was closer before and now I'm not as close anymore, because this thing moves up and down. It's like, are you really trying to achieve a position or a challenge that you covet? Or do you just want to be good at something? And along that journey of being good at something, how many people are you interacting with that give you that peace, joy, and self-satisfaction that we've talked about that contribute to your experience and your timeline? And, there's that, with each of those, I talked about obsession. Obsession ends up owning you. It does. It's, you have no control over it. It just suffocates you. Where passion, you don't own. And it's a relationship to sport. It's a relationship to craft. And those are two different things. And I was probably a little too close to the painting, and I needed to step away from it. And that's what this has really taught me. I mean, I'm back to passion at this point. Like, I got my papers on the floor. It looks like Steve Jobs in here. I got 100 notes on the wall. Like, I'm writing everything out. Like, I'm studying and, trying to learn international basketball, professional basketball, new trends, things I've missed out on because I thought I was coaching. And you know what? I was probably doing a little bit of fundraising. I was doing a little bit of housing and things that were required to run the program. And I got away from the things that I was extremely passionate about. So, I think that's the first thing that I've learned. And then, from that, understanding myself, knowing who I am, know thyself. That's rule number one. I know what I need to be fulfilled, and I'm at peace with what that is. And I think like that's being in a space where I get to do the things that really excite me, that give me peace, that give me joy, and the self-satisfaction, along with the relationships with other people who are seeking the same things. Yeah.
Well said, brother. Love it.
No, that's great, because like I said, there's definitely going to be a lot of people, whether they want to or not, that are going to be in a similar situation, and being able to take a step back. I know you said you've been able to just kind of clear your mind a lot more.
Yeah. So, and that's important. So I gave you kind of like what I learned, so that's like the philosophical thing. I would tell you, what got me to this point, or other things that I've learned about maybe being in this. It's not like I'm sitting around all day watching Netflix. Like I'm not doing it. Like, I think if you study Mike McCarthy in his year off, there's a wonderful documentary. It's on my Twitter, not to self-promote, but it's also on the NFL Twitter. You can watch that one. And it's like 15 or 10 minutes long, maybe 5 minutes. And it goes through what he did in between his year of the Packers and the Cowboys. Have you seen that, Mage?
I haven't. I've heard him interviewed about it, but I haven't seen the actual video.
He took every facet of his program, and he had a barn at his house in Green Bay. I believe it was in Green Bay. Some of his staff who did a good job.
All or Nothing at All by Frank Sinatra.
Amazing.
Siri jumping in.
Yeah. Alexa. Should I just start that over? Is that the best way to do that? So, I talked about like what I learned about myself. And I think that's like, we all got to start there. You have to really keep an eye on yourself, because in this business, the time commitment that goes into it, you can lose your who you are, your value system, but you can also get ran around a lot. And that's how you lose your mental health, your physical health. You have to have extreme discipline in taking care of yourself with your sleep, your diet, and all that. And, I've always kind of been that way, or I've had my weak moments, but I'm pretty stable in that area. But this is like what I've learned about myself is I don't have the access to get ran around as much. The next part is like, what are you doing during this time? And I tell you got to study people. You have to. And that goes back to passion, right? So if you're not spending time every day getting better at your craft as a coach, and everyone says that, but like I was confused on what that meant. It's like goes back to the Sean point about practice. Like, how can we practice? It's like, oh, you got to work on your craft. Like, what do you mean? Like elevating? Like what? Well, let me give you a couple examples. What's your communication structure? We were at Ohio State. Mage was a part of it. We had public speakers come in and talk to us and like teach us how to do media training, but also teach us how to like talk to one another. Like, how do you communicate to teammate, teammate to man, or player to manager, player to coach? Like that stuff is important. Are you studying the new trends in basketball? Are you watching other teams and how their system fits together? You have to study that stuff as a coach constantly. Player development is important. Like, there's a couple new concepts, one or not new, but that are very hot right now. Block versus random, huge concept. Like How are you implementing that? Mage, Hubie Brown's in the corner for 90 seconds. That's not as effective as what we used to do, 20 years ago. That's over with. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's proven. How are you evolving? How are you changing? And so the studying part, that goes back to passion. The second thing is finding other people that have done it well. I have 2 football guys. One, Mike McCarthy. There's a video of him on Twitter where he did the McCarthy project in between Green Bay and Dallas. And he had his former staff who didn't get jobs come to his house, I believe, in Green Bay. They met in the garage, in the room above his garage, like he had this barn with cars in it. And he had a full office in there with all of his notebooks from each game, like their whole scouting plan. And they went through every part of his system in the team system, what worked, what didn't work, and how to be effective. It wasn't an absolute or, 0 or 100. It was like, all right, well, this was 75. How do we get it to 90? And like, he went through that whole thing. It was brilliant. And I'll give you the greatest example. And I know he's got a lot of energy and he's kind of transformed it a little bit, but you really watch Gruden, like where he studies at the Fired Football Coaches Association. Like that dude's in a sabbatical all the time. Yeah. You talk about passion and studying football. I mean, he's changing his terminology, brings people in, other coaches come there and study. Like you have to have a plan for what you're doing, or you're just going to wake up every morning like, well, today I'm going to watch this guy because he's
see how it goes. Yeah.
No. You got to go straight teacher and map that thing out, and don't lose your habits either. Like have a routine with how you wake up, no different than your players. If I'm the model for the players to like in year one, I come in, I'm fortunate enough to be a head coach and no one knows what I want. No one's seen it and I have to demonstrate it. How am I supposed to tell them to have a routine and wake up in the morning if I wake up at 10 and then I wake up at 9, then I'm up at 6 and then I lift and then I choose not to lift and then I work out and then it's not going to work. I have to demonstrate everything. Keep those habits along the way. By the way, it's healthy. It's important to your overall well-being. So
the common phrase in free agency, and obviously a lot of guys today, we're fresh off the draft as we record this. But the common phrase in free agency is work on your game until the phone rings.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that's the thing. I mean, I was literally talking to a player that just finished his college eligibility recently, and he's waiting he didn't go in the second round. So he's in that free agency space. So now he's waiting for the summer league phone call to hopefully come in.
Yeah.
And then, so get ready for that. And you try to max that experience out. But that's the thing, like, and like you said, for people that do end up out of coaching for various reasons, it is a big deal that you find a way, just like a player sitting out, whether it's injury or by force or redshirting by choice. How are you better on the other side of that redshirt medical situation? I don't know what they call it for coaches, redshirting, gray shirting, maybe gray shirting for us. Sometimes you've been out of it long as I have, it feels like black shirting. But
I was going to say, Mage, you've had a word for this.
The bottom line is you got to find a way to be better on the other side of it, personally, professionally, all that. So now, like, you do everything you can to not let that space go to waste. Wasn't trying to make a rhyme there, but that's literally what you're trying to do.
And to your point, like not plateauing, like you brought up that player, is that player like getting to the point to be able to play, or is he already there and he's just maintaining? Like I see a lot of guys and they start racing, racing, and this is not to knock on anyone, but like there's people that are good at getting jobs. And then there's people that are really good at doing the job. They're very different skill sets, right? Very, very different.
No doubt. 100%.
Took me a little bit to learn that too.
Yeah.
It did.
Mm-hmm. And, you go through this and it's like, is this really about the job or is this about being good at your craft?
Exactly.
And I tell you, like, I've really always been about craft, and I've drifted away from it at times. I'm human like everyone else. Things come up, life comes up. But man, you start reverting back to being good at your craft and maintaining a healthy relationship with your sport and then sharing it with the people around you, you're probably going to have a pretty good experience. I can't promise you that you're going to elevate. I can't promise you that you're going to advance. But I tell you, man, you'll get better you'll probably feel better about yourself, and you'll have a lot of time. You have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, no question. No, you're going to wake up every day knowing your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
And like that is what we all want, no matter what we're doing. You know, coach, doctor, real estate, doesn't matter. Like you want to lift your head off the pillow knowing your heart's in the right place, and you're not you're about transformation, not just for yourself but for others, as opposed to just a simple transaction.
You know, the greatest that I've ever heard, and maybe not the greatest, but a name that comes to mind, and when you say that, is Gergerich. He's like a perfect example of that. You know, guy's had a number of opportunities, been a number of different places. And he just loves his guys. He has his crew. He loves them, takes care of them. He adds to it. Those guys grow and they become part of his tribe. And he just loves ball. I mean, he's learning, spends time with them.
Yeah, he'll spend it. This guy we're talking about, Doug, Tim Gergovich is his name. And he was an assistant with UNLV a long time ago, back in, when Vegas was like, this is when Vegas was in the 90s, where I know you're barely even freaking out of the crib, as I'm talking about this. But
depending on what part you're talking about, I wasn't even in a crib. I wasn't even born at that point.
Yeah, you weren't even a consideration, right? You were being planned, probably. Let's put it that way. But he was just a tremendous coach. Then he was in the NBA for several years. But what he would do in the off season is have pros come and work out with him, and he wouldn't pick these elaborate workout facilities. It would be like at 3 days at Crenshaw High School in LA, which is in the hood. And, you'd have 8 or 10 NBA All-Stars in there working out with this guy for 3 days. Just sweat, work, basketball. No glamour, no cameras, none of that. So just to give you some context of who Danny was talking about, but like, that's a guy that there's never been a doubt on where he's coming from. He does not care about who's watching. He doesn't care about being anybody's top 40 under 40 or top 80 under 80 or whatever his age is. He does not care. He is all about the game, about players, about coaching. I mean, he's got a pure heart as you can find. It's unbelievable.
No, I mean, and I feel like that's what grows, at least just doing your job correctly, no matter what it is, will ultimately, the word will get out, right? Like some way, somehow the word will get out, especially if you're putting yourself at least out there. You're getting in front of people, and like the word will get out eventually. And to you guys' point, like that moment will come at some point. Yeah. Coach, but what we want to do is just kind of go full circle here, right? We're starting from where you ultimately began with it and now kind of taking it back to looking at that. If we were to just put you back into that first opportunity that you had to coach, right? If you had any advice to be able to give with your younger self, what would that advice be to not only be in the profession, but help kind of grow in it?
Let's start with growing it. How about that?
Okay.
One, I had great mentors. I talked about that. And I think I've always been like this, Mage. I think you can kind of validate this here for me. I've always wanted to learn and give back, like whatever it was. I coached when I was in college. Mage and I were in Vegas when that Kobe Bryant 4 a.m. workout. Remember that video on the drink? Yeah, me and Mage were there.
Oh yeah.
We were there with another person. So,
oh my God.
Like I've been doing that. So, staying committed to giving back, because I don't think it's like I'm doing, community work. It's just learning about the sport, and like people who maybe not have as much experience as you or access as you have or been where you've been, and you can always learn. Like each opportunity is an opportunity to teach or an opportunity to learn. It's, I think that's always been part of what I wanted to do, give and take. And that was my father. I mean, I had more coaches at our house talking about, heat transition or whatever drill and this and that. Like dude. And then like he'd end up, I knew where his head, and I'd end up outside and be ball handling drills. Let me teach you something. It's like, damn, dude, like I just got home. Like, Hey,
Danny, come on. Let me try this with you.
No, I know. Like I knew it was coming. He talked loud enough to get my attention and get me down.
Oh yeah.
Well, it became like, all right, damn it. Like, here we go. So, I love that. And I bump into those guys now and like, I remember when your dad did this. So, yeah, I said, do you remember how he talked to me when we did it too? It's like, no, I remember how you talked back to each other. So that's a whole nother, that's a whole bar conversation. That's not for a Zoom.
Yeah,
so,
no, we need drinks on that one for sure.
Yeah.
But,
So, you know, you got that part. What would I say to a younger self? And this is going to be more philosophical. You know, when I first got started, I was a little in a daze because my dad had just passed. So I was like, you know, you just don't know. Things come out. Like he brought up the story earlier about like guys after practice working on stuff that doesn't matter. Like, you know, we all get that one athlete that we recruit and it's like, he's dunking after practice, but you just practiced for 2 hours. He couldn't close out. Right. And I remember being young and being like, you know, smart ass, just part of my language. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to cuss, and be like, hey, why don't you get in the corner and give me 50 closeouts? That's more effective than that dunk. It's like, it wasn't my responsibility to say that, but like, you know, everybody was thinking it. Like, it just, you know, I felt like I was, you know, you're young, you know, you put yourself out there, you have to learn a little bit. You're trying on new masks and new personalities to see if they work until one sticks and you feel healthy with it. You know, no different than a teenager. You got your own coaching version of that.
No question.
You know, I think as a little bit younger, not necessarily are you secure of yourself as a coach, but, you know, how did your playing thing end and how secure are you of what people view you as? And once you let that go, I think then you really take off. And that took time. From being like the player or whatever into the coach, and then trying to work through my own personal issues or whatever they may be, like my acceptance of maybe who I was as a player and like not letting that bleed into being a guide.
Yeah. It can be an identity crisis for guys when they're in between, no doubt.
And, you know, I mix in like my father passing, like that was a rough patch for me for a while there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You know, I made it out alive and I'm better for it. And I've learned, I've made my mistakes. I've made some successes. And, you know, it's like, I know I have much more clarity on who I am and acceptance of that and like pride for it than probably ever before.
Love it. Well said, brother.
No, that's great. No, because I mean, off of that too, like, being able to just be like see full circle, right? Kind of where it all began, and then ultimately to where it is now. We feel like just being on here to be able to talk about that just gives not only like people listening the idea of where your mind is, and not only is but has been, but then just kind of gives yourself that mental reflection too. Just like, and that's what I love about this is everything that you're saying too. And I could say this about like 99% of the episodes. Everything you're saying not only pertains to coaching in basketball, but it can pertain to everything else and every other. Like, so anybody who'd be listening, whether you're a salesperson or like working on front line or whatever it is, you know, like there's so many things that you can take from each that can pertain to different lines of work, which makes this all so wonderful.
So back to your point, and you said this earlier, like we talked about, hey, getting a job versus doing the job. I talked about obsession and passion, right? So right now, you know, more than ever, I'm locked in on craft. Like I'm looking at your logo here and it says rising coaches and it has these arrows going up, like rising, right? You know, you kind of look at that line and it's like a, you know, up and down like a mountain, and, you know, no progress is linear. If you really look at your career as a flat line and like your relationship to basketball, hey, my relationship to basketball was I was a player in high school, and then I was this at Ohio State in 3 different roles. And then, hey, now I'm at Arizona. Like, is my line going up or is my line still flat? And it's like, all right, well, in this space, my relationship to basketball is like this. And in my space, you know, right now I'm in a sabbatical. I'm in year 0. Like, is my line down or is my line still flat? Because I'm right now, I mean, I feel better than ever. And it's like, you know, just because this is Michael Gervais, it's like performance identity. Hey, my value as a human is higher when I average 20, 10, and 5 versus, you know, organizational identity. I'm a better human when I have this logo. And hopefully I'm getting that right. I don't want to misquote the guy, but like that has no impact on me right now. And I think it did. I probably did, like all of us. I think
a lot of us. 100%.
Yeah, we all have a version of that. And
no doubt.
To your point, like, am I elevating or am I just on a flat line. This timeline is my relationship to basketball. And these are all the things I did at each of these stops. And I think that's more of a mental visual representation of what I'm trying to get at here with craft and passion, as opposed to advancing. Obviously I want new challenges, but advancing, making more money, being in a bigger spotlight, like those things are great. They come at a cost. They're great, but that's not necessarily my focus at this point. And that's not necessarily who I am anymore.
Yeah.
If you told me that I could go coach 15 of the best players in the world and no one would ever know, and I was in a back gym in the middle of nowhere, and we just had like a little compound and worked out every day, a talent hotbed like Daniel Coyle, and
Right.
we got better, and I learned all this about basketball, I'd be, man, this is great. This is great. Just enough to feed myself. I'd be like, oh, I sleep on the floor. This is awesome. Like, that, like you got to have a little, man, you know, that's just how I am. Now, I'm not saying I might be a 1%, it may be an outlier. Like I'm a little off sometimes, but that's what gets me going.
But your greater point is you sometimes it takes stepping away from things, going through some things to really kind of do a reset, which is what this is for you now. You really, I mean, it's literally a reset, and it gives you a chance to find yourself, not just a reset identity wise, but a reset priority wise as well. So, before Dougie lands the plane, man, this has been great. I can feel the joy in your voice.
I appreciate that.
We talked on the phone last night. I'm honored to be able to be your friend. Your dad to me was unbelievable. The beauty of it is, I just had a recent coaching buddy just lost his dad, just fresh a few days ago. And I send him, and I'll tell you what my mom told me is it took both of us to create you. So a part of each of us is always going to be with you.
Absolutely.
That's old Mary Major wisdom from the year 2000. 25 years ago, she told me that when my dad died. So there's always going to be a part of your pops he's not gone anywhere.
No.
In a way. It feels like he's not here physically, but DNA wise and what's making you tick right now, he hasn't budged. So, but anyway, appreciate you doing this, man. This has been awesome. And like we said, hang out a little bit when we shut it off. And,
I'd like to share one thing on Mage here. Okay. Cause did John come on here? Diebler?
He did a round
table.
He did like
we were
just
talking
about. He did something talking about shooting that was a little bit more specific. Yeah, but he hasn't done a
play for your dad and have an unlimited clip. There you go. That works.
right.
Yeah. All right. So let me tell you a story about Mage. All right, and I'll never forget this. We just went to the Final Four. That year I got mono and I dropped to about 150 pounds. Mage, I don't even know if you remember doing this.
I do. No, I remember I remember you feeling going through that. Yeah.
I mean, we were playing Illinois on the road and they tried to check me in and I shook my head and Brandon Miller came up to me after the game. He said, never tell the coach you want to go in. The next day I had mono. It was like, it was bad. So that's where I was, right? That off season, I worked my tail off. I did. I put on like 30 pounds. I bulked up. Rich, who was on here, helped me a lot. I spent a lot of time in the gym and I was like, dude, I just got to be in great.
Ooh, we lost him.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to share one story on Mage because, coaches come on here and they talk about their stuff, but I want to make sure that I speak life into him and just give him a little bit of sugar here and say thank you. But my after we went to the Final Four during that year, I had COVID. Or I had not COVID. I had mono and different crisis. I had mono and I dropped to like 150 pounds. I mean, I was skin and bones. Well, that off season, I worked my butt off because I wanted to like contribute. And Mike Conley had just left, and you playing tricks on yourself. Like I got to be able you got to be able to help. And I bulked up and got up to about 180 something. Dave Richardson really helped me with that. I spent a ton of time in the gym just shooting stationary shots, and I got in great shape cardio wise. And the whole summer went along, and We did not have summer workouts at that time. Coaches couldn't be on the floor. So fall training camp started. And I mean, there's a point in time where I was leading the team in steals, like in the goal, like all those stats and stuff. And Thad, called out the team in practice.
Right.
Where, fall training camp turns into practice. And I walk in the locker room. There was a note in my locker, and it was from Mage. And it said, "You won't get much credit for this, maybe, maybe not, but you have improved and invested more than any player in the program this offseason. And I didn't want you to know that was going on unnoticed." And at that point, I loaded up the clip and I was like, who do I got to kill for? It's little things like that, a handwritten note just to acknowledge you're being seen. Yeah. And it's easy to write that to Evan Turner, the National Player of the Year. Really easy. What about that manager that stays extra? What about the walk-on who just wants to make sure we can have a good practice? Man, I mean, I'm emotional right now saying it. And it's like, you don't know how far those things go or how much energy that puts back into your tank. And I'll never forget that. Thank you, by the way. But I'll never forget that. And I've actually used that a lot because I know how it feels. I mean, you look at my eyes, like, how I feel about it. But I've used that for guys in all areas. And I had a kid transfer at a school I was just at. I wrote him a letter on the road when he was struggling. I went to yoga on the road. The instructor said something beautiful. I took it home. I wrote a letter and stuck it underneath his door. And sent me a picture of it as he was transferring to his next school. He said, "I will never forget this. You don't understand what it meant to me. No one's ever acknowledged me like this and said, 'I love you.'" And it's like,
yeah. No, I think we're in a day and age where people think because it's so transactional and financial and, agents and all the other stuff. And I think people sometimes are just really quick to write off that stuff like that's all out the window and you can't do that anymore. And I think once you start to buy into that, your days are probably numbered really in terms of, really being what you want to be as a coach, because you're just shifting to, it's easy to follow the mob in that other direction, but
not the Youngstown one, DC.
Yeah, no, not that one. Yeah,
sorry, I get that confused.
That's right. No,
we got to be careful
on here.
We got to be careful. Yeah.
But, there's a part of that in coaching that should never go away, and so I just always felt personally that was important. But no, I appreciate you saying that, man. That means a lot. Like you and your family have been to me, like fam. So thank you for doing this, man. I know, like I said, 9 months from now, you'll be in a whole nother stratosphere, developmentally, personally, spiritually, all that. So this has been solid gold.
Want to make sure I give myself, and this is my part of my reason for doing this, because of my experiences and like in this little area that I'm in. I can't promise that it's going to happen, but I can give myself the best shot, and that's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Well said, my man.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
well
great.
said.
And it shows that, I told this the other day, you always want to be recruiting your guys. And that story right there exactly tells me Mage is still recruiting you, even though you're still on the team. You know what I mean? Like, you're always recruiting your own guys. Somebody told me that the other day, and they're like, you're always recruiting your own guys. And I thought about it. I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense, because those guys now, they can hit the portal and leave in a second. Somebody else can be calling them when they go home and asking for more money, even though it's illegal. They could still be doing that. Like, there's always more voices in people's heads. So always be recruiting your own guys. And the power of the handwritten note, Mage. There we go. See, it all goes full circle. We always talk about that on here.
Right.
That's great.
No doubt.
But Coach Peters, no, thank you. Like I said, I know we chopped it up on the phone before you even hopped on here a couple of days before, and just to be able to learn the mutual connections. And of course, thanks to Sean Flannery, my point guard, and I know someone who you've had the pleasure to work with, but I know he connected us, and obviously you and Mage have a long-term connection. But thank you for being on here and just sharing everything, because as we always say, for people to be able to be on here and share your stories, it's definitely going to help those moving forward and other coaches
I hope
No
so.
doubt.
I hope so. That's what we all choose to do. You know,
Yeah.
what we really want is for this to keep growing and expanding like it has so quickly with the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No doubt. Well, everybody, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Rising Coaches Podcast. As always, Alan Major, Doug Caputo, to all you coaches out there, keep working and keep rising, coaches. We'll see you all soon.